What is your mission? What do you stand for? What is your vision? Where do you want to get? What are your values? Your do's and don'ts, and ultimately your core purpose. What do you exist? So, and ultimately, when we get that education, what do we want to come up with? It shouldn't just be the qualifications. I think there is an important aspect that we all need to understand: emotional intelligence. I mean, I break it down into, firstly is you need to look through the mirror. You need to know yourself, self-awareness. Then you need to self-regulate. After you've looked through the mirror, you go through the window. Then you are part of the society. You become socially aware. And ultimately, there's a relationship management. So this education we get is not just about flaunting. You know, we are just, as Africans, sorry to say, we are so embroidered in title. Then it will bring me to the issue of experience. I have a saying that experience is not what you have. Experience is what you do with what you have. Because you see, you may say that you have 10 years experience, yet you only have 1 year's experience 10 times, right? So that experience is what you use it. Then also mining opportunities, I think very, very important. You need to be looking, you need to be an optimist, and not to be an optimist, I say, you need to see opportunities in problems. But look at the focus. Almost every sports organization in Africa, it's differences, personality clashes. Do you know why? Because we look at problems in opportunities. And I think it kind of affects us. Ultimately, also you have the passion. I call it the magic that never fails. So in a nutshell, I think from the education background, like I've said, as much as education is good, you get the technical expertise. I think we need to front emotional intelligence. Once we do that, we will never go wrong. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that response, Joseph. I think that's a very, key thing you mentioned. A lot of the times we focus on the hard skills and we leave out the soft skills, which usually is what causes the major distractions in Africa. There's a lot of, egos clashing, personal, confrontations, and that seems to always get ahead of the game a lot of times. And this, I think, would be properly managed or better managed with a lot of emotional intelligence. So I will come back to Barrister Okay and ask this question. So for you, dealing with the NFF and with CAF, what has been the major challenges? Because every now and again, once there's a problem, everybody is pointing fingers. The NFF is this, the NFF is that. And I know you also have some experience working with CAF. And how have you been able to deal with those challenges? Maybe you can give us 1 or 2 pointers for the aspiring young administrators in the house.
Thank you. Challenges working with NFF or working as a consultant for CAF or for FIFA is also the same challenges that we experience in all daily in our lives. Okay, maybe when you come to working in NFF, the same challenges that you probably have the best of ideas, and you know how we say in Nigeria, and Nigeria happens to you. You will not take away the place of politics in sports, administration and management, okay? Because you would have noticed that in the recent past, the leadership of sports federations are now by election. It's no longer by military fiat or one person sits down to draw up the list for the leadership. So naturally, the political angle, the political aspect of change in leadership is a very big challenge when it comes to sports administration. But once you're able to get it right, you will just see the sports development on a very wonderful trajectory in that territory, be it whether it's in Nigeria or in any particular sport. You can go and check, and if for any reason a sport loses that, you will see that federation, losing momentum in whatever they have gained over the years. Talking about challenges working with CAF or working with FIFA, maybe as a consultant, yes, it's the same challenges working with that they have in Africa. You know that for us, we are not up there. I mean, you naturally have challenges of technology and all those kind of issues. You have to deal with that and then work within what you have available, so you'll be able to deliver on the key mandate of your assignment. I work as a safety and security consultant for FIFA and for CAF. You'll be imagining this guy is a lawyer, but like I said to you guys here, it is sports management and administration is dynamic. It keeps evolving. I have not sat back in my little legal unit in the NFF. I've been able to diversify, and today I'm a safety and security consultant with FIFA and CAF, and I also train safety and security officers. So these are the things that the opportunities in sports is almost like endless. I started off as a lawyer, became a CAS arbitrator in 2003. I think the first person after late Prince Bola Ajibola that was one of the founding fathers of CAS in Nigeria. But I have not sat on that. I had to evolve. I had to move on and do other things around sports. So I encourage us, please have an open mind, broaden your horizon. The sky is too big. We can't finish it. There are so much opportunities. I've met lawyers here today. I've met club owners. I've met industry marketers and the rest of them. Please, the opportunities are endless. You have to explore and network and achieve your goals and desires.
Thank you very much. Before I go to Lex, I will put this to Joseph. You are in Zambia. You're the CEO of this football association in Zambia. What are some of the challenges you have faced, and how have you been able to, surmount some of those, or solutions you've been able to come up with?
Okay, that's a point of correction. I'm the CEO for the Zambian Premier League, which is under the Football Association of Zambia. Yeah, but in terms of the challenges, I think from the administrator point of view, one thing I've noticed is I think our administrators lack in two things. Firstly is what they want to do, and secondly is how they want to do it. Why am I saying so? And you see, I have a belief that in doing what we want to do, there should be the short term and the long term. In the short term, what do we want to do? Obviously, we want to get results, isn't it? But you see, everyone wants to shortcuts. They want to just results, and we like making the funds pushing us, and we stay in that area of just wanting to get results. But what do you have to do in the long run? You need to have a long-term development plan, isn't it? And this is where the strategy comes in. But we have noticed that, I think from our perspective, this lacks. As the Zambian Premier League, we are just setting up. I brought up the same issue. We had the consultative meeting with all the professional clubs for men and women. Then on the other side is, what do you have to do in the short term? This is where you now need to get your processes. Is it a club? Whatever sports. But most of the times you find clubs just operate based on personalities, not based on systems. You need to have the right system. And obviously, what do you need to do? How do you do it in the long run? You bring in the culture, the well-being of the organization. I think that has seen, for me, I don't believe that, yes, political interference. When you have a system, the system will self-regulate. When you have a system, it doesn't matter who's running the show. And I've seen mostly, when people leave leadership, they want to fight those who come and take over. Then those who take over as well, they need to realize that there is an aspect of institutional memory. So I think it's basically from the administrator's point of view, we need to get it right. We need to know what we want to do in the short run. Like I said, yes, results are nice. We need to know what we need to do in the long run, which is the long-term development plan. Then we need to know how we are going to do it in the short run, get our processes right. Then ultimately, in the long run, how are we going to achieve what we want to do is have the well-being, which is the culture. So thank you very much for now.
Thank you, Joseph, for that very good response. I would still put the same question to Lex, but I'll put it in a different context. You are a young administrator. So let's look at it from that youthful side, and then coming in from the diaspora, deciding to set up, your organization, trying to run league around schools. What has been the challenges for you, and what are some of the ways you've gone around some of those things? Because I know sometimes you can't go over it, so you just find a way around, right?
I mean, where do I even start from on challenges? But hey, I think fundamentally if I'm looking at it from the diaspora point of view, I think we do still have a people problem in this part of the world. So there is the infrastructure and whatnot, but many a times us young administrators and some of the young players and some of the young coaches, I think we're very particular about instant gratification. So everyone is sort of used to, let's play 7 matches and win $1 million. I can guarantee you, if we go to secondary schools today and say, come play, you'll win 10 million, nobody uses secondary school students. They use machineries. That's not the Honorable Minister's problem, because that's, at the gladiatorial level, but at the grassroots, some of the understanding of people about grassroots sports, it's still on the backward side, for lack of a better word. When we started, we said, we'll provide referees, you play in the league, something that's never happened before. And by the time they got to game 10, guys were tired. Not the players, the heads of school were tired. Going to games, home and away, all outside of the academic program. Something that they were very excited about at the beginning. But then, when you go to the schools and actually watch the games, you see the students, everyone is happy, everyone is having a good time. We've seen 90% of our team right now is made up of secondary school students. And, fantastic talents. So I think educating us at the grassroots level, I think we need to do a lot more. A referee makes a bad decision in a game, for example, and the secondary school coach will say, everybody needs to leave the pitch. Now, that's not the Honorable Minister's problem again. That's not the governor's problem. That's not NFF's problem, right? That's someone who is older than these kids. You're not quitting on legs, you're quitting on the kids. So life is going to get tough, and you'll say, oh yeah, everybody needs to get out now. So we need to go back to the very basics. Some of the things that worked for us in the past, I read an article about school sports from Chief Shegun Odegbami a few years ago, about how St. Marumba's College is the king of school football in Nigeria, and how they used to play academicals. So I fed off the back of that, and then modernized it a little bit and started my program. But still, the reception in some of the places that we got, like, how much are we winning? No. 16, 15, you're still in the developmental phase. So we need to go back and re-educate ourselves. A lot of it. I mean, we crashed out on the under-17 tournament yesterday. The team was young by standards. But again, we crashed out. So it was one of the first time we actually fielded a young team. But unfortunately, we are so behind in talent development now that other countries that we used to beat blue-black are catching up on us. So educating the people, you fix that, you put a structure in place. I mean, there's no reason why it shouldn't be a Brazil. They have a system. It's working for them. Corruption is, the minimal side, but it's working. So why can it work if we get our people right? That's what I think about that.
Great response. Thank you, Lex, for that. I would ask you too as well, Micah. But now I'll also put another context to it. Everybody seems to be celebrating Sport Lagos for, raising the bar, in that level of football. But it also comes with its own complexities as well. Despite the complexities, your team seems to still thrive and become that model everybody seems to be pointing at. So I would say, what have you guys been able to do in terms of solutions now to be able to say, look, we are going into this tier of football in Nigeria, but we are still going to do things the proper way and still survive, despite being surrounded by all of these sharks in quote.
Okay, thank you for that question. I think we are sporting. Definitely, when Mr. Shola came into football, a lot of people tried discouraging him because of the kind of environment we have in Nigeria, especially the professional scene. So what he said was that he is going to form a club that will try to replicate best practices in the whole world into the Nigerian system. So what a lot of people say is, it's not going to work. You need to do it the Nigerian way. And his response was that that's a problem that we have already established. Then can we stop talking about the problem and start thinking solution? We know our professional football in Nigeria, the system around it is not the best, even though I am a believer that they are trying their best. For even organizing a professional league for us is something. And that's what most of us in the sporting world don't get to appreciate. A lot of people just stay behind their keypad to condemn while you are doing nothing to improve the industry. Then the people that are doing something that you think are not doing it to their optimum best, that they are not doing it to world standard, you are talking down on what they are doing, but you are not offering a solution. So we at Sporting, we know the problems in the Nigerian football space. So it's about sporting talents. Like when you talk of non-coaching staff, like the administrators, then we talk about the coaching staffs. One thing we know is that to get a football result, it's not just about the players, it's not just about the coaches, but the entire staff in the club. We can lose a match because somebody sent the wrong email, or you send an email at the wrong time. And we so have a system in sporting that we can, let me say, trace where the error is coming from. Let's say we have a match in Port Harcourt, and we're traveling, the match is tomorrow, we're supposed to travel today. And normally we'll book the first flight to Port Harcourt, and the secretary of the club forgets to send an email, did not book our flight, and he books us on, let me say, a 6 p.m. flight. And we are supposed to have a training session in the evening of a day before the match. Then our flight is 6 p.m. If that happens, we are going to go to Port Harcourt, and you will destabilize our plans. I mean the coaching staff now. You destabilize us, we'll not be able to train. There are some things that we have planned to work on, just some hours to the match, so that it will be fresh ideas with the players. Then we'll miss out on that. We go to a game, and the same patterns we have worked on, we concede a goal, or we fail to take chances because of it. It's your fault. It's not the players, it's not the coaches. You failed to send an email. It's as simple as that. And we're going to trace it. Oh, you delayed our flight. We did not have that training session. All the work we have put in during the week, you messed it up because you failed to send an email. So it's all about setting an elite environment where everybody involved with the club, even as low as the curators, the cleaners, are up to their game. Everybody is hands-on. It's not just about, like in the Nigerian space, it's always about a little bit about the players and 95% about the coach. Like our youth team yesterday, the U17, everybody's blaming the coaches. In this hall, I just heard somebody said, Ubade is not a first team coach stuff, he's an assistant coach. like we started preparing. I know the U17 team, they started preparing late December. You have teams that have been in camp for like 6 months, 4 months, preparing for same tournament you are going for. And maybe you get your boys together in December, play some friendly matches, give them a break, come back again in March and kickstart everything 2 months to the tournament, and you want to go there to give a good performance. But when all that happened, the administrators that are actually not living to expectation, you won't see them. The only people you see is that guy that missed the penalty, not knowing there was not enough time to actually coach him on how to take proper penalty kick. So discussing about administrative problem, I think education is very, very important. It's lacking. As a coach, I'm privileged to work for Sporting because they don't just pay us as staff, they take our education seriously. You are always upgrading. You are always upgrading in Sporting Lagos, exposing you to the, let me say, trending modern ideas. If you watch our games, you'll see it. Definitely that the way we play is different. It's because the staffs are adequately educated to put that kind of show.
Oh, that's brilliant. So clearly you can see the difference. And when you invest so much into the people and the system, you know, it's only one thing that is sure success. I'll go to Joseph now because he mentioned something in his opening comments when I asked him about the challenges, and he talked about the emotional intelligence and soft skills. I know this is a plague across Africa. Virtually every federation has conflicts to deal with. They are always fighting themselves. From South Africa to Zambia to Zimbabwe to, I don't know if that's the case right now, to Nigeria, you know, really. And, you know, it begs the question that how do we manage these conflicts? Conflicts will always happen even in organizations, right? But you find a structure and you build a conflict resolution plan, as it were. But it seems like from the very top, when politics comes in, nothing can be done. Everywhere is just pure chaos. And I'm asking Joseph this because I know he has experience in corporate governance. You know, he's worked in banking, and you also run the league in Zambia as the CEO. You know, how do we manage these conflicts that doesn't seem to let African football grow as much as the talent is abundant?
In fact, you've mentioned the key words, corporate governance. This is where we get it from. I'll give you an example like the Zambian Premier League. We've got the Zambian Premier League board. We are just starting, but we had a consultative meeting and we agreed that their role is more of ownership. Because on behalf of the association, they will make sure that the goals and objectives, the KPIs that we are given are achieved. Then on our side, our aim is to run the show. So right from the start, if those two are well defined and there is corporate governance involved, but you see, it's so funny, when you bring in such people, there are people actually who even say, no, these things are for Europeans, they don't work for us Africans. So what works for us Africans? Juju. And if it's Juju, where has it taken us? You know, we had a workshop with UEFA. I was quite impressed. And then I even realized that that's why UEFA is successful. We had the league development program where we invited all our top teams. And the first thing they asked us is, what are the 4 major challenges? They split us into groups. When we're doing those challenges, you know what they did? To them, they turned them into 4 goals. And they narrowed down. We came up with 4 main goals. The first one, obviously, like you say, was governance. All the clubs agreed that, no, I think that's the greatest area of improvement. The second aspect was club development. You know, Zambia, we've lost out on Continental. We used to have 4 spaces. We only have 2 now. And you see, when it comes to club governance, we already have club licensing, which is a system FIFA uses, so that, you know, clubs can run independently as businesses. There are 5 pillars, but currently I can admit that they're just on paper. So if we can get a club license, then the third aspect was league development itself. Like I told you, we had lost out 4 spaces. So how do we bring back those 4? And the last one, but perhaps the most important, is because we need sustainability. You know what we do? If we don't have the money, we are dead and buried. And the last goal was marketing, which was the first topic. I sat through the first topic, and income generation. You know what UEFA did? The following day, they actually came up with a template, an operations plan. So all those 4 goals, now they threw the gauntlet to the clubs. They said, under each of these 4 goals, come up with your own objectives. Each club came, da-da-da-da-da-da. What objectives do you want to do? Then, after the objectives, they said, what are the action plans for each of these objectives? What do you need to do? Who is responsible? By when? You have the operational plan. I was like, wow. And from the governance point of view, what we did, we also invited the CEOs and the club chairman. So the proceedings of that, and you know, after that, we now we gave the operational plan to the clubs. And what UEFA did, they said, no, you as leaders now, they focus on us as leaders as the Zambian Premier League. Myself and my colleague, to start with, the league manager, and by then I was the acting CEO. They put us on a 6-month mentorship program based on those that same operational plan, based on those 4. So I realized that, well, when you are organized, 1, it's clearly stated, the board know their limits. Then 2, management also realize that they need to work. And what they were doing in those 6 months, you can imagine, they were holding us accountable as the Zambian Premier League. Every month, they were doing a report, an assessment report, 1 to our ZPO board, and 2 to our main executive committee for the Football Association of Zambia. After 6 months, but fortunately, I think we did exceptionally well, they made a report. So now they said, if we can do this to you, why can't you do it to your clubs? So I have I had a Nigerian MD with the time I worked in the bank. He always told me, you know what, Joseph? People will only do something that is being measured. If you don't measure, forget. And he also told me that, you know what? If what you want is not available, make what is available the preferable. If your preferable is not available, make the available the preferable. So the aspect here also I want to push is we need to start holding ourselves accountable. We need to start holding the people we lead accountable. But in Africa, we tend to be the nice guys. You find a leader, want to be, that guy is good, but who's suffering? At the end of the day, the organization suffers. So yes, corporate governance is very important. If we get it right, everything falls in place. Probably that's why it was even the first objective under the UEFA, leadership program. Yeah. So I think that's my lead to take. That's my 2 cents for now.
Thank you very much, Joseph. That was more than 2 cents, actually. That's like $5. All right, Barrister, okay. I'll be pushing the same question to you. You work with the NFF, and I mean we are all Nigerians, at least largely, apart from Joseph, who is, of course, Zambian in the room, and we hear of all these conflicts and disputes. But as a legal luminary, what are the strategies? What are the effective ways you think we can prefer to manage or avoid some of these disputes from even coming up in the first place? Because we must move forward.
Yes, we have collectively identified the right governance structure to be at the core of the problem, and that is very correct. Now, human nature human interaction, when human beings interact, there must always be conflict. It is given. Now the issue becomes, how do you resolve this conflict? Now, in football has been able to identify that the best approach to resolving dispute and conflict that arises from football is via either arbitration or alternative dispute resolution. Okay? It can be arbitration, mediation, conciliation, or whatever. But now you have a situation where, out of desperation, all right, where somebody, for example, loses an election, and the rule book for this election says, if you have anything against this electoral process, what you do is, in the first place, go to the electoral committee and subsequently to the electoral appeals committee, and from there, in the case of NFF, take this matter to FIFA, and from FIFA it goes to CAS. Now, somebody feels aggrieved with the process. Instead of going through this route, you know what he does? Because he feels that the best approach is to go and get an injunction. You see, now this guy goes to the nearest court, gets an injunction, and throws a spanner into the entire works. What has he done? He has left the governance structure that everybody collectively signed up to. When he signed his form that says, I will abide by the rules and regulations of these elections and the electoral guidelines and the electoral code. All right? He has gone against it by going to the court. And what will the federation and the association do? They must have to go to the court to see how they will convince the court to say, my lord, sir, we have a governance structure that this is from the electoral committee to appeals to FIFA to CAS, and this guy has not done that. You understand? So that's the major challenge. Oftentimes, this is what you see that runs, whether it's football, athletics, or any federation for that matter. But once we say this is the way to go, please, it will run its course. If you think that, oftentimes they say to you, why should that the electoral committee or the electoral appeals committee was constituted by the NFF members, why should I take this matter to them, that they will be biased? No, please, take it to them. Let them return a decision against you. When you go to FIFA, it is not constituted by the NFF members. When you go to CAS to even look, do you understand? You will be rest assured that somewhere along the line, you will get justice. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see a lot of us Nigerians don't believe in the rule of law as I would like to put it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So you just believe going through that right channel, it might not end
We
well.
always believe there's always a Nigerian way of doing everything.
Right. So we must then to stick to the books. Let me take you on now, Lex, and speak to the needs as an administrator. How do you balance the needs of the athletes, the fans, and the stakeholders that you have that are partners who are supporting the sport or the organization or the event that you are managing, knowing fully well that they all have various interests, that needs to be met, to help you succeed as an administrator?
Thanks. That's a very good question. I think managing expectation is key. Someone mentioned MTN earlier, that if you're going to MTN and saying you want to give MTN visibility, you might potentially be wasting their time and your time, because they already have visibility. So you absolutely need to be spot on the value you're offering. First of all, on the athlete side, athletes are notoriously demanding. So you absolutely do need to manage expectations there. I mean, I get 15, 16-year-olds asking me Kamaru under the bridge, for lack of a better name, who has never played at any level in his life, wants to go to Chelsea. So you'll be like, hang on a minute, mate, right? Let's be calming down. So managing that and just keeping them on the sort of level that they are. So sponsors, again, it's not always the money that the sponsors are going to make. Some sponsors, CSR, for example, majority don't make anything from that. So if you want to get CSR, be absolutely specific that, right, so you're doing this to help out. You're not doing this to make money. You're not doing it to make profit. And, get on the SLA, KPIs, put things in writing. And for me personally, I think what has helped me is that, again, just thorough grounding in gaining experience and having failed multiple times. Just trial and error. The more years you spend relating to people, you might have all the fancy degrees in the world, but if you may still not be able to succeed in a place like Nigeria. Everyone says Nigerian way of doing business, and Nigerian way of doing business is selling as a Nigerian and managing expectations as a Nigerians. We do like to hear numbers. You put in 50 naira, you get 500 million. So let's be managing that calmly. Everyone will be happy, and I think that's absolutely key in keeping everyone happy.
Let me ask Micah, the same question. Looking at how Sporting Lagos has been able to, get a good crowd following from the fans. You are running a proper structure. Of course, you have investors. Let me use that language, and then you have players who, of course, also have high expectations. Sporting Lagos is not Eyimba, for example. I don't know what the payment structure is like. I don't know what the visibility is like. It's the lower tier of the league. So players too have expectations. Are you going to sell me to Chelsea, for example? So how have you guys been able to manage all of that expectations from your fans, your stakeholders, and then the players as well in trying to run this proper structure that you guys are trying to run?
Okay, thank you for the question. Football or sport in general is a long-term business. It's not a business you go into and you put in money today, like he said, put in 5 naira and 5 million comes out maybe tomorrow. So it's a long-term business that needs patience from investors. So before I go to your question, I would like to build up to it. So at Sporting, what we do is that, okay, what we decided to do in the first place was that what extra can we do to the football that will encourage people to come to the stadium? So what we did was to introduce the other part of entertainment with football. So when you come to our games, it's not just the football match. We talk about the music. Sometimes we bring star artists to perform. So that is more of an attractor to some fans than the football itself. So they are going to come, and in that kind of environment, getting crowd into the stadium is very, very important. The numbers are good. But the other thing that is there is, what is the spending power of your fan base? If Adidas gives you an endorsement deal, how many of your fan base can afford a pair of an Adidas sneakers? It's very important. So first of all, the brands are going to consider, okay, the numbers you have, then what are the value your numbers offers to them? Because everybody wants to make money. It's not charity. So one thing about Sporting Lagos is that we have been able to create an environment that encourage, let me say, everybody in the economic sector in Nigeria to come to the stadium to watch football. We have different kind of tickets. We have our, let me say, the regular tickets. We have the premium. We have the box office. So we meet the needs of every individual in the society. So what we do now is that, okay, managing expectation. Sometimes our fans may come, and because you are playing a football that looks like what you see in Europe, they want the same productivity, same result. They want to come, and Sporting is beating a team like 5-0. But one thing we do is that you need to know that the quality of players they use in Europe, the quality of equipment, the environment is way different than what we have in Africa. And also, when it comes to the players trying to go to Chelsea, like in this hall today, somebody met me. He plays on Saturday and Sundays, and he wants to come to Sporting Lagos. When I meet people like that, I'm very honest. I don't manage your ego and be nice. I told him, you have 0% of playing for Sporting Lagos. Because football is a process. I told him, can you get a club? First, play every day. Just play and enjoy yourself. Then, get and play matches. Record your matches. Give it to data scientists to analyze, to get data for you. Then when you send us a data, you send us a video, we analyze and watch, and okay, we're interested in you. Can you come and have a training session with us? In that training session, we might decide to give you 10 minutes, 20 minutes. If you don't do anything with it, that is the end. Because of where you are coming from. So there's always a process to everything. My players, I'm always honest. I'll tell you, this is the level you're at. You're in Sporting Lagos, and in your mind, you can play better than Lukaku. Chelsea should sign you. I will show you your videos. The numbers of chances you got, how many did you convert? In Nigeria, and you want to go to Chelsea. So it's just about being honest. So videos always help me. Watch yourself. You, if you are the owner of Chelsea, will you sign this player? It's about being honest. So in football, everything you get in football is on merit. You can't dribble your way to the top. You have some careers that you can dribble your way to the top, and if you can't sustain it, you fall. Football, there is no way. It will expose you. Either as a player, as a coach, as an administrator, you must earn everything you get in football and sport in general.
Thank you very much for that response. So don't blame the young man. People were shooting short and scoring. So he shot his own shot, but this one, he went out of the stadium. He didn't get it first. All right. We would also talk about something very important too now. I would also start with Joseph, and this has to do with finance. Finance is very critical, in administration, and we hear a lot about this, especially in Africa. And to headline that is, we hear multi-million-dollar sponsorship deals that have no numbers attached to it. You hear coaches that have been signed to teams, and you don't even know what the salary is. You see sponsorship come to the federations, or teams, and you don't see. But those things are very common, in the West. But in Africa, for some reason, it's shrouded in secrecy, and it's always baffling when I can tell the salary of Cristiano Ronaldo, but I'm wondering how much the Super Eagles coach is being paid. And he's telling you it's only his wife that can reveal that, in a press conference. So, Joseph, how can we effectively manage our finances and budgets, really, as administrators in Africa? Because it's a critical part of what causes the conflict, if you look at it holistically as well.
From my point of view is, as African clubs, there is this word which I feel we normally abuse, sponsors. I hate it with a passion. For me, I like going the partnership way. Because first and foremost, you need to create the value. How do you do that? For brand enhancement. First and foremost, if I'm coming to you, I need to have a share of your mind, right? So that if they are thinking of the Zambian PL, the guy you kick out that how. You shouldn't say, what am I going to get from you? I should turn it into a wow. You get the point? I have the share of mind. So once you have the share of mind, then you position yourselves. Thirdly, now, asset utilization. That's where you make the money. I'll give you an example. I realized that, you know what? Yes, in my former life, I was a very good salesperson, but I realized that I'm not in the business of, I'm in the business of football. So I got in touch through my networking, a UK marketing agency called Pitch Direct. I got in touch with them, and obviously, I think even them, when they came on board and saying, no, we need to come, first do your strategy, we need to come there, teach you how to. I said, you know what, all that you are saying, I already know. All I want is show me the money, bring the business, leveraging on my brand, which I know is strong. After that, we agree, a commission, They said, no, but I said, take it or leave it. Believe you me, 2 weeks later, they came back and said, okay, our standard fee is 15%. I said, I'll give you 12.5%. You get the point. What am I trying to do? I was trying to show them that, you see, I have something on the table, my brand. So how did I project my brand? One, first and foremost, I showed the benefits. For each of our leagues, each of our leagues, we have 4 leagues under the Zambia Premier League. We've got the men's league, which is currently sponsored by MTN. We've got the TV rights for Super Sports. We've got a second tier league. There was a sponsor who we kicked out because we're not getting the value, but we are busy talking to Absa Bank. Then we've got 2 women's league. They are relatively new. The Women National League is relatively new, no sponsor as at now, and the National Division. So basically we've got 4 leagues. So each of those leagues, we came up with a value proposition, and it's tiered in 4 tiers. For the Super Division, the top tier, of course, is by MTN. They've got them naming rights. Second tier is vacant. Third tier, we've got Zambian Breweries, the sub-Miller guys. And for each of those, we highlight what rights you come with, so that you come on board. We don't want you to come and just think. We want you to see your value your value for money right at the outset. So what we've done is we've come up with a business model, simple business model, the machine of making money. For each of the products that I have, first and foremost, I need, like I was saying, I need to highlight the benefits. The second aspect is the channel distribution. How do I disseminate those benefits? For the benefit of a potential partner. It could be face-to-face. Now we are in the e-world. It could be through mobile phones. It could be through your social media. So you outline all the channels. So from the benefits, the product itself, you show the benefits. The second aspect I show is the channel distribution. The next thing is the sales. How am I going to maximize the sales? I need to create that critical mass. You need to have numbers on your fingertips. I show my partners, this is what I'm going to bring on board. In terms of viewership, this is what you're likely to gain. And ultimately, it's about how am I going to sustain? Because I don't want to start something. This is now where the service is. Under the service, we've come up with the service level agreements. We know every process, it will take this long, so that it's well defined. Because ultimately, I want to create a high performance organization. Through three things. I need to be clear in what I'm doing. This is why I refer to the ethos. When I'm going to my partners, they need to know what's my vision. Then secondly, I need to get the right competences. Do I have the right people? So train your people. You need to create a culture. Then thirdly now, the commitment. They say commitment is what makes a customer make the buy, not the product. So we've clearly come up with a business model, and so far indications are that we'll be getting quite some business. So in most cases, what I've seen with organizations, they just believe it. A strategy is good, yes. It will just tell you how you, but you say, how are you going to make the money? This is where you bring in the aspect of the business model. So I think as organizations, we need to, to have that business model documented and operationalized. In doing all this, there is one key thing I always stress: execution. I say execution is the only discipline of getting things done. If you don't execute, forget. It will just be academic. That's why the aspect of emotional intelligence is very important, because it moves you to executing. You have the right ownership. Like I said, you will have looked in the mirror before going through the window. So I think in a nutshell, it's looking bright, and we are trying to inculcate that culture in our clubs as well. And one or two, I think 4 clubs, we got one betting company. They got to sponsor 5 teams in our league of the Premier Division, Super League, which is made up of 18 teams. So let's get the business model. And in doing the business model, we need to follow the money. As simple as that. And remember, execution is the only discipline of getting things done. It has to be done. And I keep telling people that I'm going to succeed unless my name changes. Because I have the confidence. I know what I'm doing. So you need, as administrators, we need to know what we are doing. You need to be confident. You need to have the right commitment. You need to have the right passion. You need to have the right energy. You need to energize people. You need to execute. You need to have the edge. When you say no, it's a no. And ultimately, the modern currency of doing everything is trust. Get the trust. You can have a strategy. You can have the money. Where there's no strategy, the money won't multiply. But you will have no money. Where there is trust, people will be rushing to you. You become a magnet. So I think let's get the business models in place. And it will be a win-win situation, both for yourselves and your partners, please, not your sponsors. Let's drop the word sponsors. Believe you me, it works out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. That was a great submission there. Speaking to, getting the models right, then your budgets and your finances, financial models would fall in line. Barrister, okay, I still want to pose the same question to you. With the NFF, you hardly hear the figures out. And it's interesting. I mean, I, for one, always wonder why it's a difficult thing for us to know. We've heard different names as sponsors, but we never hear the numbers. And it's interesting to know why is that the situation? That is difficult to say, okay, Red Strike is here. They are bringing X amount of money. Are we afraid of being accountable?
Yeah, thank you very much. Nobody, the organization I work for, Nigerian Football Federation, is not afraid of being accountable. Now, when you have a sponsorship or marketing contract, it involves 2 parties. Now, oftentimes, there's confidentiality clause in those contracts, whereby parties agree that you don't disclose some aspects of this contract except to regulatory authorities or by way of maybe Auditor General or your external auditors and the rest of them. Now you also have a situation whereby you sign a contract with a coach and then you go and announce that the man takes home 5 million naira. And before the man receives the first month's salary, his whole friends and community gather and come and start making outrageous demands. We have had, some of them will tell you, please, when you have a public unveiling where naturally media, whether mainstream or social media, people are asking questions, they will tell you beforehand, I beg, no tell them how much be my salary, because that's the way it is. Do you understand? But no, after all, if you attend the AGM of Nigerian Football Federation, the financials are there. The auditors look through our books. Pricewater auditors, they look through our books, and all the all the contracts, all the sponsorships are listed in the income and expenditure profile of the association. The only thing we will not do, because of within the framework of the contract, is to come and discuss and make it a matter of discourse over in the media. Do you understand? If parties agree that you can go ahead, but you don't expect the NFF to go ahead and do that. You can, if you don't get it, if you feel you need it, you don't get it from NFF. If you go to the other party, they will also give it to you if it is allowed within the framework of the agreement.
All right, thank you very much. There's another interesting trend today, which even though we talked about it a little bit in the last session, even though we delved more towards women, gender equality, but diversity and inclusion is what I want to use in this context. You know, how effectively are we doing that? I'll go with Sporting Lagos. In your organization as administrators or as a body, you know, how much of that is being incorporated to how you guys are running the business, because as it is, there are multi-layers that brings in those revenues, and you just don't want to leave anything on the table. So how much are you guys doing, or what are you doing with regards inclusion, diversity, you know, in your organization?
Sorry, you have to come again with the question.
Okay, so I am asking about I'm asking about inclusion and diversity as an organization. For example, in specific terms, we can say, you know, how much involvement, you know, do you have with regards to women, you know, being a part of what you do, because that's what is obtainable these days. Now there's I don't want to call it a movement, but it is brought to the fore. It's a conversation everybody's having across board, whether it's at FIFA or it's at the NBA, or, you know, everybody wants that inclusive, diversified, you know, governance or across board. So what I'm asking is, are you guys also practicing that at the moment? Are you looking towards that? Like, what are you guys doing with regards to that? I think I'm doing.
Yeah, thank you for that question and the further explanation. When you talk about inclusion, you are kind of tailoring it to the gender specifics, so inclusion of women in what we do. We have a board member of 4 personnels, and you have a lady as the second in command. So, and also, if you come to our match days, you have a lot of Sporting Lagos fans that are ladies. When it comes to attending to the fans, serving people, and also welcoming people, giving them that first impression of coming into the stadium, you have like 99% people are doing that at the club to be ladies. If you put it into numbers, I can say 40% of our staff are ladies. You might not see them, they are back end, you might not see them, you only see the players and the coaches. Is a men's sport team, so definitely the players are going to be guys, the coaches most of the time I'm in, but it's a project that is starting. So we start this, you need to spend some time to establish the male team, and after doing that, right now we have a youth team. Once you establish that youth team, so that you can have a transition from your youth players to the first team players, then the next thing for us to do is to have a female team, because it's even in the criteria. There is this talk around of merging the CAF Champions League and the Confederation Cup and forming it into a Super League. They tried making that move in Europe, it did not work. But I think Africa needs it, where we have a Super League. So one of the criteria for you to qualify to be part of the teams in the Super League is that you must have a functional female team. So Sporting Lagos, our ambition is beyond Nigeria. We want to be the leading club in Africa. So for us to be part of that, so we must have a female team. But right now, most of our non-coaching staff, you find a lot of them being ladies. And if you come to our match days, you will know what I'm saying.
Brilliant. I don't know if Joseph wants to speak to that as well, to give us a context of what's obtainable in Zambia in terms of women in leadership in sports generally.
Okay, I think to start with, it's something that has been recognized at the Football Association of Zambia level. At the national executive, the main executive of the Football Association of Zambia, we've got three elective positions, of course, the president, the vice president, and the women representative. And then in the provinces as well, the chairman, we've got 10 provinces. The chairman of those provinces automatically become part of the main exco, as well as the Zambian Premier League chairman. But even in the provinces, the executive is replicated. We've got a women representative, as well as a youth representative as part of the committee. Yeah, so I think women are well represented. And next week, actually, on the 25th, on the 24th, we have UEFA who are coming to make representation on women football in development. They will give it 2 days, then the executive committee will have a day on the 25th. And you can see that results are being seen. Zambia was the only women national team that went to the Olympics, represented Africa, and it's also among the 4 that is going to the World Cup. Unfortunately, and for the first time, we were able to beat the mighty Eaglets. I don't know what you call them, the Nigerian team. So I think women focus is there. But having said that, there is one group that I feel we need to also focus on. Why am I saying that? The millennials. When I look at football, I believe same in your country. If you look at the current kids, their attention span is very short. They don't have that patience to go, a match is being played at 15, they enter the stadium at 2, so they don't have that span of attention. And I'll give you a practical example. There was a day we had double header, 4 teams were playing, 13 hours of the Super Division. And you would expect that the pitch would be filled. Next to the stadium, which is Sunset in the capital city, there is what we call the National Sports Council of Zambia, the overseers of all sports organizations. So when I looked from the grandstand where I was seeing, our football stadium wasn't filled. When I looked on the right, it was filled, freestyle, the Millennial Games. There were about 6 events, and it was filled to capacity. I'm thinking to myself, oh, what is happening to football? And when I look at football, it's only us, the older guys, I call our older guys, us the dinosaurs in inverted commas, who watch football passionately. And my concern is, in 10 years' time, what is going to happen to Zambian League football? So how do we, I even went to the extent of all the 4 teams. I asked each of one of the officials from each team, I said, can you look to the right? What are you seeing there? None of them was able to see the opportunity. They were saying, oh, yeah, these kids of nowadays. To them, there was that. Unfortunately, even in my house, I've got 2 sons. One supports Madrid, the other supports Barcelona. None of them supports the Zambian teams, despite their father being the CEO. And they said, Daddy, it's boring. So now I'm thinking to myself, how do we engage them? And I told those 4 guys, 4 officials, those events, why don't we bring them? And there's a big yard behind that stadium, Sunset. I said, why don't we start thinking about bringing those people? Let's follow them. They are always on these gadgets. Why we are promoting the game? Let's speak their language. Let's speak their language. Let's not stereotype them. They come here, you start worrying about their dressing. I mean, even our old parents in the 70s, they used to wear the same things we want to condemn. So I think the millennials is one group that we really need to target. There's one team I like, NAPSA, in Zambia. What they've done, they've made it free entry for the kids. And when they are playing, you should hear, they give them jiggies, we call them jiggies, like nuts at halftime. That's the only payment. But they provide transport. And you know, it's in a high density area. So I was telling the team that, guys, it's high time we follow this group. Yes, women are very important. After all, my mother is a woman, my sister is a woman, my wife is a woman, and my daughter is a woman. Women are important. We can't overlook the fact. But for me, I think what we need to follow are the millennials. It's one opportunity. If we miss it, believe you me, we'll be watching soccer in empty stadia. I'll give an example of Tanzania. Look, two teams, Yanga and Simba. They are few, but when you look at the other teams, so why don't we spread out? Even in Zambia, only I think even it's the same. Maybe one or two. You go to Ghana, there's Asante Kotoko and Arts of Hope. What of the other teams? But for me, we need to start spreading it. And I believe if we can get the millennials, or the team getting the millennials, I think we'll get it right. So in terms of diversity, I think that's a route I feel we should go to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. I'll take the final set of questions now. Just one question every panelist will answer, then I will open to the floor. I'll just binge off the narrative you put out with your last response, Joseph, you're more or less talking about the future of the sport. The older generation seems to be the ones still sitting in the stadium, and if we are not careful, that generation will fade off, and then you'll be playing football in empty stands. So my question to you now is, what's the future of sports administration? What trends should we be looking at? Everybody will respond to that question. I'll start with Joseph, then I will go with you, Micah, then Lex, then Barrister will wrap up on that. So what are the trends we should be looking out for, and what's the future of sports administration?
I'll sum it in one word: sustainability. First and foremost, I think we need to be creative. Let's have ideas. Once we implement those ideas, then it leads into innovation. Second thing, continuous improvement. Someone spoke about best practice, but I like calling it good practice. We need to learn from the best. I gave an example of UEFA. I'm on their backs every day. So I'm telling them, I'm starting my league. Which league? I want to go to Bundesliga. I want to go at the lane. I want to go to the EPL. And you see, they're appreciating because I'm looking at continuous improvement. So, of course, firstly, creativity. Second, continuous improvement. Then also risk management. We need to be sensing the weak signals all the time. Because the guy who's behind today will be ahead of you. And lastly, I think we need to be responsive. There are stakeholder management, very important. I think if we get those 4 things right, I think we are home and dry. Then what skills do we need? First and foremost, I think complex problem solving as administrators. Because the game is complex, isn't it? And it can only run if we are solving complex problems. Then also we need to be critical thinkers. Think both inside and outside the box. Then human management, people management, because it's the only resource we can't manage. We're talking about, yes, administrators. What are the coaches? Let's get them to get the right qualifications. Look at our friends, they plan. Thierry Henry knows he's about to retire, and I was very happy to see the headmaster, one of my all-time favorite players, Mutiu at Depoji. I remember even the team he played for Racing Santander. That's how close I followed him. So I felt good to see him, but that's what lacks in. Unfortunately, I think I didn't like the story I read about. Is it a rumor or something? Yeah, but and we need to be responsive, like I was saying. So we need to critical. I said creativity, complex problem solving, critical thinking, and the human aspect. Yeah, we need to get it right as administrators. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. And so what trends are you looking out for, and what's the future of sports administration?
Okay, from our guest speaker, from everything he
You're
has...
also a guest speaker.
I know. I'm actually crashing the gates. So, from everything he has mentioned, you can actually say that the future is here and Sporting Lagos is the future. Like we are already doing everything he says. Tapping into the millennials. We're even going a step further. We're bringing Jay-Z's into the stadium. So majority of our fans are kind of the younger generation because of the kind of ambience we provide in our stadiums. And with my owner, Mr. Shola, is always educating us. It's always about the next level, investing in the human resources. Like, I just got my UEFA badge, coming to Sporting, and going for that course, I somewhat liked it. It improved my coaching, and it got me thinking, can I replicate this in Nigeria? It all starts from Sporting Lagos sending me for a course with the Scottish FA, and I was thinking, can I replicate this? So I belong to a coaching association, Next Gen Coaching Association. So I'm one of the coordinators. It's a group of Nigerian coaches in the whole world, and I'm one of the two guys leading them. So I started free coaching education in Nigeria. We've done 2 workshops, one in Ogun State, one in Lagos, and I'm planning to do another one in July. That is going to be a 3-day workshop for coaches, and it's going to come with scholarship. If you do this workshop, and at the end of the day, you're part of the first 3 best coaches, that's the plan for now. It can be bigger. Then we'll give you a scholarship to have a chance to get your UEFA badge. And getting a UEFA license is very expensive. For a coach to get a UEFA license, all the expenses is upward of $5,000. So, although this is not a Sporting Lagos project, but it started by Sporting Lagos sending me to a course that gave me that initiative. And one of the coaching courses I've organized so far, the workshops, Sporting Lagos has always been there to sponsor, to educate Nigerian coaches for free. So that is one thing I will want to actually plead with us, is that we know the structure we have here is not something to be proud of. We already know that. So we should not spend our time talking about how bad the structure is. I think we should be brainstorming what can we do to make the Nigerian sporting environment better. Because at the end of the day, I saw a lot of people, they have time on air, they're criticizing NFF, they're criticizing the players, everybody, and you still depend on football to feed your family. It's as if you're destroying what feeds you. Why you're contributing? You're only taking from the system. You're not contributing anything. So can we find a niche? Our sports system is bad, okay. The stadiums are bad. Okay, the players are playing in a bad condition. They are not properly fed. The coaches are not educated. Can you find a problem and be a solution to that problem? If all of us do that, I promise you, within this decade, our football will be the best in Africa, because we have the talents. All we need is structure. And the people that are going to form the structure is we sitting inside this room.
Thank you very much for that. Alex?
Thank you. I agree that the landscape is already changing, and the future is here, like you said. And I think Lex Sports is the future.
There we go. Battle Royale.
Well, what we're already seeing is a lot of more collaboration. than we used to see. I'll give an example. Sporting Lagos reached out to us, for example. We've had 1,700 students play football in the last 18 months. And they'd reached out to us that they want to bring some of these kids in the stadium. And that's amazing. They've recognized what we are doing. We've spent the last 2 years watching these kids, analyzing their games, feeding them, encouraging them on education. And I'm absolutely proud to say we are on the verge of securing a 9-figure sponsorship, or partnership more like, from Nigerian leading companies. So someone said something to me earlier. There was a time when Afrobeats was coming up. And we look at Afrobeats now, how it's taken over the world. And I think Nigerian sports is around where Afrobeats used to be. So it's a really good time to get into sports. And what we're all doing, the people in this room, I think we just need to collaborate more. And in the next 5, 10, 15 years, when they're talking about the people that changed the game, I think some of our names will definitely be mentioned.
Brilliant. Barrister, okay?
Yes, for me, I did make this point earlier that sports, football, whether sports or football is very dynamic, it keeps evolving. We must continue to evolve. We will not be static. We must innovate, and like James said, bring in creativity and then network, work together. There's need for synergy amongst everybody, from the administrator to the players, to the coaches, to the agents, to the marketers, to the media, whether mainstream or social. Everybody's will have to be, all hands has to be on deck, so that, like he said, so that in the next decade or so, we will have arrived at where is the dream of everyone in this room, where our sports, football in particular, will be. Sorry, I always navigate to football because that is where I operate, basically. So that's my take. We must innovate, be creative, and more of this kind of events. Please, let's network, work with each other, pull each other up and not pull down, and work with each other and walk through and drive home our sports to the next level, or to the ministry. Well, how do we say it in Nigeria? Move the ministry to the permanent site. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful way to wrap it. Thank you very much, Barrister. Okay. Joseph Chimpapu, thank you for joining us all the way from Zambia. You've given us so many insights and nuggets. Lex, thank you so much for the work you do with those kids out there in Ibadan. Across, okay, very soon it's going to go global like Afrobeats. And Sporting Lagos, you guys are doing amazing work, and we are proud to say this is something Nigerian. It's not someone from outside. I don't want to get into trouble. You know, it's not someone coming from outside to try to show us the way. We are doing it ourselves, and that's what makes it even more beautiful to talk about and associate with. I'll open the floor now for any questions for the panelists. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Anybody else? Okay. Please, can we get the second microphone, please? Oh, okay, he's on the stage, so I'll just step forward. No problem.
Good morning, or it's now afternoon, 2 o'clock. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nkechi. Mine is just a comment, and I'm very glad to see Joseph here. Yesterday, in some of the sessions, we made the point that the solutions to the problems in sports are not going to be solved through sports skills. They're going to be solved through business skills. And I'm so glad to hear Joseph's background. He came from the banking industry. Joseph, was your CEO Jeku?
No, it was, I had 2 Nigerians. There was first Jolono Okorodudu.
Okay.
And then there was also Adekunle Adeleke.
Yes, but Jeku was also in Zambia at that time. That was what I thought. But the skills
Okay.
we need for better administration in sports are going to have to be imbibed as business skills. So he's spoken about critical thinking. He's spoken about strategic thinking, doing business models, financial modeling, all of that. The challenge has been that there is no institution that you can go to today and pick up those skills. The NIS was supposed to be that, but we all know the story of that. But then that's opportunity. And I keep telling people, sports will evolve because people are going to pick up the opportunities. And it makes us go back. I'm so glad Beverly does this. And also a couple of people also do different things. It makes us always go back to the National Sports Industry Policy. For the simple reason that that's a document that outlined everything that you are saying. So yes, I agree with Monsieur Sporting Lagos. There is now time to go to the next level. Administration and management skills required must be like you were going to work in a bank, or you were going to work in an FMCG. Or, in fact, that's where we're going to begin to get our CEOs for all our sporting, from banks, FMCGs, insurance companies, all of that. The fact that you ran for Nigeria is no longer going to be effective. No, it's not. And we're going to begin to get coaches from those places. I remember the Lakers had a coach that was an English professor. And he went on to win how many, 2 or 3, during Magic Johnson's time. The fact that you played the game is not going to make you the best administrator. And so we have to begin to understand that. That's a set. And then lastly, federations themselves. Sorry that, Amaka, we would like to see some other federations. You know, this was just a top-heavy football conversation. I was rather upset on behalf of all the other federations. So let me now speak for them, right? But the fact of the matter is, if we take the Football Federation, we're actually going to need federations to begin to understand, just like what they've done in Zambia, separate the professional game from the developmental game. We don't do that here. And globally, football has refused to do that. But football will. That is actually at the heart of what you were talking about, that they tried to do the new league, the other league that failed. I can't even see how CAF is going to do, but let's wait. We'll see how it happens. Until the administrators separate the professional game from the amateur game, it won't work. But our federations can do that, because then the professional game is where you make your money. Joseph is the CEO of the Premier League. That's the professional game. If he makes money, the development game will make money off him. So our federations must evolve, like you rightly pointed out. We must evolve. And if evolution requires them to decide to do that. So on behalf of all the federations that Amaka refused to put on the stage, right, I speak for them. But this is brilliant. I've listened to everybody. Kudos, Sporting Lagos. Kudos to the work you're doing with the kids. I didn't catch your name because I was downstairs. But kudos to the work you're doing. And Barrister, my brother from another mother, you keep pushing it, but we need your federation to please step up to the plate. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My question is to the barrister from the NFF. It's somewhat of a fundamental question. I'm a lawyer myself, just like you are. The moderator talked about the issues we keep hearing from the governing body in Nigeria, which is the NFA or the NFF. And there seems to be a lot of politicking, a lot of chaos sometimes that trickles down and affects the output that we have with our national teams. And sometimes it affects the league. One of these issues is this controversy of whether you guys are NFA or NFF. I know that there is an act that created the NFA, the Nigeria Football Association. But then we hear that you are now the Nigeria Football Federation. And that act that created the NFA has not been amended or repealed to reflect that reality. So, how exactly, by what authority do you guys change your name and are bold enough to actually answer it in public? And then somebody was talking about salaries being made public, and you answered and said, you gave your reasons, and you also said that PricewaterhouseCoopers has the figures. To the best of my understanding, you are, in a sense, a public organization, which means that you are funded by public resources. So, we actually have a right to know. You're not funded by Pricewaterhouse. You're funded by the resources of the Commonwealth of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So whether his village people are going to make demands on him or not, it's not our business. We hear of the deals that the likes of Wizkid and Davido do. They are made public. Don't they have village people? Don't they have hangers on? Don't they have dependents? They do. So we must be honest with ourselves and attack critical issues that are, undermining the development of the game. With all of this chaos, how will investors be confident in putting money when even the administrative body is at war with itself, is disobeying the laws that created it? So I would like you to answer this and answer it honestly, not politically. Thank you.
Thank you, Learned Counsel. I hope I will have enough time to do justice to this. Let me start from the last one about the NFF is funded from the Appropriation Act every year. If you go today and Google the Appropriation Act, you will see how much the federal government gives the NFF. So that provides the answer. The money that NFF receives every month, if you go on Google today and Google the budget for Nigeria, you will see it there. When I say that Pricewater is our external auditors, they audit our figures. Now, you are a lawyer. Parties, you and I have an agreement today to say the terms of this agreement, especially the financial terms, should not be made public except with your consent and only to regulatory authority. Do you want me, or will you want to breach that agreement by releasing the financials of that contract? I don't think that's proper. I think I've answered that question there. Now, I will move to the...
Sorry, Counsel, let me respond briefly before you continue. Now, Like, that's why I hammered on the fact that it's public funds that are running the NFA, right? By virtue of the Freedom of Information Act, both parties don't have that authority to enter into anything that involves public funds and choose to keep it a secret or keep it private. It is something that should be accessible to the public. That's just what I'm saying. And then you said the budget, the appropriation budget, shows how much is given to NFA in bulk. That is in bulk. But I'm asking of the breakdown. How much is the NFA giving to our coaches, our technical team? For example.
Thank you very much. You see, what you want the NFF to do is to publish or make public or release to you the fact that a Super Eagles player was paid XY amount. Correct? And that the coach of Super Eagles or under 17, Ndoko Obade, takes home XY amount. That is what you want. No. But I have placed before you that there's a contract. All right? There's a contract. We are not talking about, I said to you, the budget is online. But you don't expect to publish. Even the Freedom of Information Act recognizes that when the information you're requesting for is public record, you cannot request me, you cannot ask me to make available to you the budget that is published by Budget Office or Ministry of Finance. No. You can Google it and get it online. And then again, if parties have an agreement, we're talking about an employment contract. So, assuming that you as a lawyer, you are representing me and you sign a representative contract with me, and inside that contract it says that you must not disclose. We have trade secrets, for God's sake. If it says you cannot disclose that, if you disclose that, there are confidentiality clauses in contracts. If you do that, I take you on and I know what to do. So let's leave the issue of disclosures of financials. Let's address the issue of the NFF and the NFA. There's an act establishing the NFF, Nigerian Football Association. The act provides, there's a regulation that was made pursuant to that act that empowers NFF to undertake certain actions. If I knew that this was going to come up, I will also ask you, since you know there's that law is there, go and look at the regulations that was enacted pursuant to the NFA Act. Now, let me now explain to you. That act was in 1992. It was Decree 101 of 1992 and became an act in 2004. Now, subsequently, in 1992, it was fashionable for government, whether ministry or anybody, to sit down and write the names, composition of the board of Nigerian Football Association or Federation. Now, in 2001, FIFA introduced what they call the Standard Statute, which every federation, the 202 or 204 members must adapt. Now, it was in the course of that, you know that prior to 2004, prior to 2005, we used to have about 21 board members for the NFF. But it was the coming into effect when FIFA clearly said to Nigeria that by 2005, if you must continue to play association football within the territory of Nigeria that is recognized by FIFA, this is what you must do. You must drop NFA Act and administer football in Nigeria with that standard statute that was now adopted in 2005. So that's how we now stopped operating the NFA Act. It got to the point that the Federal Executive Council, because of the nature of our National Assembly, it is taken from that 2005 till date. Every National Assembly, go and check the records. The records are there. Has attempted to amend that act. But there was a point during Obasanjo's tenure, there was a point that the act was passed. My sister, were you part of the Omerua attempt? The one that got up to Obasanjo's for his signature after he had been passed by the Senate, it was for him to assent. I don't know how he declined, and that has always been the problem. Now what happened was that because they could not amend this act in 2006 under Balakaoji, FIFA found out that that the NFA Act was still a substantive law in this country, and they were going to slam Nigeria by saying that so long as you still have this act in your statute books, that they were going to ban us. Now what they did was Balakaoji under Obasanjo was able to get a Federal Executive Council approval to assure FIFA in writing to say, yes, the NFA Act is undergoing legislative process, but that going forward, that what will be administering football in Nigeria is the statutes. So that is how we have from that 2005 going till date are running the statute. You see, if any if tomorrow there's insistence, whether individual or the government, that we must operate the act, I can tell you that the next thing that will happen is that they will tell us that you guys are not ready to play international football.
All right, thank you very much, Barrister Oki, on that one. We're going to take just one more question and we'll wrap this up. As another barrister, I'm worried. No, you please. We'll take the discussion outside of this because we are limited with time. Okay, just let me give it to you.
Kitola Teralagbegi, sports lawyer and grassroots specialist. So basically my background is in setting up grassroots football academies. One of the first ones was Click Sports Academy in Lagos. That's produced a lot of players that have gone abroad. One of them is now in Super Eagles, Terry Murphy. And we helped set up HB in Abuja, which has a few players in this current under 17 national team. So my question is towards the spirit of synergy, as you mentioned. I think you're the perfect person to be here on behalf of the NFF because we're talking business and sport at this seminar. And the new FIFA board that's coming, Infantino-led board, they've promoted the FIFA 2.0 and they're now doing the 3.0, where they're giving every single association that's a member of FIFA a lot of money to invest back into the game. So we've set up about 4 or 5 grassroots clubs, and there's variation of success. For example, one of them, Click Sports Academy, has developed a player that's gone all the way to the Super Eagles. There's some that have developed players that have gone to Lithuania, to Bosnia, right? And then there's some that have not developed any, but maybe they're serving a refugee area, for example. And the person is very professional in what he's doing. and he's getting some boys that would never have been seen that need this funding. So that business coming from FIFA to the NFF, some of the grassroots clubs are already benefiting through training compensations and solidarity. The NFF is doing excellently in that. But that's sort of like a direct FIFA to club project when the player is successful. Can the NFF, through you, because you're my learned colleague, you're the head of the league, you can guide that governance and guide that policy. Can we have, as a suggestion from myself, as somebody on the ground as well, can we have the NFF say, look, when FIFA gives us this money, if you're a club that has produced a player for the under-17s, if you're a club in a refugee area where there are displaced children, just come up with this kind of criteria. One CSR, one on productivity. Something to award and encourage good behavior. Can this be a policy that we can look at?
All right, nice one there. But you've been able to also establish that when you transfer the player, your club is paid a transfer fee. When the player is subsequently transferred after that, your club benefits from the solidarity mechanism or training compensation, whichever is applicable. What you now want is a situation whereby, because you got lucky and you have a player that is now in Super Eagles, what you now want is a situation whereby the money that comes to the federation under the developmental funding from FIFA is allocated to you. Yes. Thank you very much. And if you ask me, personally, this is me here, I will say you're not being fair. You have collected transfer fee, you have collected training compensation, you're collecting solidarity mechanism for every transfer of that player. Now, the developmental funding that comes from FIFA or CAF, whether under the FIFA Go project or FIFA Forward program or FIFA 2.0 or the 3.0, are meant for specific things. Now, some are used for development of infrastructure. There's a stadium going on in somewhere in KB. There's one going on somewhere in Delta State. There's one in Bauchi. There's the one in Abuja. And then don't forget that there's also a program that FIFA has that if Nigeria had played in the Qatar World Cup, for your player Terry Murphy, if he had played in the FIFA World Cup, your club was going to get a bulk sum for the number of games that he played from the qualifiers till the World Cup. So I think if you and I know all this, I think this is a fair enough compensation for your club without asking for this one because the other one you're asking for is to benefit the people that are not lucky to have produced the kind of player that you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We have to wrap this up. We are out of time. We are out of
You see, Kiton, if
Please,
we agree here that there are 400 clubs in the NLO. Do you understand?
Can't capture everybody.
If FIFA gives NFF say $3 million, for example, I'm just off the top of my head, $3 million. How many of them? How much will you share to that 400? That is just NLO. We have not started to talk about the academies that are scattered all over the whole place. We have not talked about the grassroots one.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something that is sustainable.
Yeah,
and what is
realistic
sustainable is the solidarity mechanism system, the training compensation, the participation fees that you get if your player goes to the World Cup, and the transfer fees. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that
And
response,
also
Barrister.
maybe,
Okay.
can I comment? Can I comment?
Yes, please.
Why should we reward failure? Do we want to go back to communism? If someone hasn't made it, why should we reward them? Reward those who make it, isn't it? Otherwise, in companies, this is again what we're talking about, where you want to reward people who haven't. So for me, I disagree totally. Why should we reward someone who hasn't gone far? Let the clubs reward them, not the National Association. This is why we are splitting in Zambia. The Zambian Premier League looks, the Football Association concentrates on development. And development shouldn't be about rewarding failure. Hell no. No, that shouldn't be the case. Absolutely no.
Thank you very much, Joseph Zimbabwe, for joining us today, all the way from Zambia. Thank you, Barrister Okay.
Thank you.
Also coming
you
all
very
the way from Abuja. Lex, it's a pleasure to have you here. And Michael from Sports in Lagos. We've come to the end of this session. Please let's put our hands together for all our panelists. They did brilliantly well. And I will hand over the mic now to Beverly to give the plaques.
Thank you so much. That conversation got quite heated, I thought. But it was well handled, very well handled. I think there's still so much that needs to be talked about. It's clear. Administration is such an interesting topic, and I think Madam Nkichiobi made that comment about we need more institutions, private, to help us learn more about administration, rather than, like I said yesterday, too many people are leaving Nigeria to go to Spain to do administration. We need more local training bodies. So for those of you in the room that are looking for opportunities, training and education is massive. There is a gap for trainers, facilitators, whereas there's a huge supply of people looking to be trained. So I really hope that the takeaway was more than just the wrangle we just saw. The real takeaway is we've got these seasoned administrators on the floor here in different areas: continental, national, youth football, new generation football. Sadly, I didn't get any other federation. I'm sorry. I'll do better next time. Basketball, national aquatics, tennis, badminton, cricket, hockey, polo. I will ensure better diversity next time, I promise. But the main point is we've still taken away quite a lot from here. And again, the point is, what are we going to take back to our organizations? Because the truth is, if we all go back to base and we've not implemented even one thing from here, we've wasted our time and our money. All right? So I really want us to remember the takeaway from here is, what did I learn over the 2 days that I can implement immediately? Or what new business area am I going to set up? So thank you so much. So without further ado, let's have the photo call and the awards. So let's begin with, the awards. Mr. Oyinlola. The next one is, of course, Barrister Okay. Thank you. And of course, our esteemed moderator. So invaluable. And Mr. Chimpampwe, you will also get something virtually. We'll send you something virtually. But honestly,
Not a
you were
problem.
brilliant. You know,
Thank
like
you.
you
Thank
see
you.
what I mean about professionals that have a non-sporting background. That banking industry background really came to the fore today. So sports business is not just about, oh, I love sports so much. Loving, passion is not enough. It needs to be backed up with something else. So thank you very much for your wonderful contributions, Mr. Chimpampwe. Make us proud in China. Show them that we have quality
Thank you.
people there. All right then. So
Thank you
let's have
very
our
much.
group shot,
I
shall we?
appreciate. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, and then we'll be giving out certificates to participants as well. Okay. And Mr. Chimpamwe, you will also get something virtually. We'll send you something virtually.
Not a problem.
Honestly,
Thank you.
brilliant, what I mean about professionals that have a non-sporting background, that banking industry background really came to the fore today. So sports business is not the masterclass coming up on the effective blueprint with Adedami. The masterclass is now coming up. Adedami, are you ready? The masterclass on how to create an effective sponsorship campaign. The blueprint for an effective sponsorship campaign. Okay. So we'll set up